Thank you for staying with us. Now, last week we brought you an interview where the Namibian Bus and the Taxis Association, NAPTA, has sought a legal opinion on the legality of e-hailing service providers in Namibia. NAPTA is concerned that such operators do not comply with the public transport regulations, yet they are allowed to operate in Namibia. Now, tonight we have Yango in studio replying to NAPTA, and joining me is Kumwe. Yeah. All right, Kumwe Dumeni, thank you so much for joining us. First things first, of course, you've heard the response by NAPTA, that is his concern around, the legality of hailing services that you guys provide. Can you just give us, a clarity on your operations, of course, keeping that response in mind?
Yeah, sure. Salma, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here. I think we need to understand two things to understand the context in which this conversation is happening. Yeah. The first one is that we need to understand that Yango is not a taxi service provider. What we are is an international information technology. So we operate something similar to Airbnb or Booking.com or these platforms that people use in order to use technology to better their service. So we specifically operate in the taxi industry, but what we do is we allow someone who wants to book a ride from point A to point B have access to an already existing taxi provider, So when you understand that context, you understand that technology is, what we don't want to do is leave Namibia behind, right? I think we're in a digital world and we're constantly innovating and growing, correct? So what we want to focus on Yango is to be able to create an environment that allows the taxi industry to also carry on with us. So when you understand that context, the second part is you understand that we're actually not competitors to associations like NABTA. For example, people who actually use our platform are people that are represented by people like NAPTA, associations like NAPTA. For example, taxi services, they're able to work with our local partners in order to get access to the platform, to get new customers, to be able to operate more efficiently. So that's the structure of what Yango is about.
But I think the transport aspect of it perhaps could be concerning for them. I know you spoke about technology, but of course the other issue that they raised was that, non-compliance in terms of how, public transport is registered. But before we get there, let's just quickly listen to NAPTA's SG, Penda Palanakathinga, who we hosted last week, before we respond to that.
We have received numerous complaints from the members in the sector, and also, according to our own observation, is that there are, many movements within the sector, which are also now coming with these new technologies, improvements. What we are receiving from the members is that they are now getting tough time, when it comes to business as, no longer business as usual. So what the complaint comes is that they are now competing with vehicles that are not necessarily having a license to operate, such as permit. And, like in Windhoek, we have the culture that taxis that have to operate legally, they must be identified, that is in terms of the law. And in Windhoek, we have got a numbering system, which is now taxis, legitimate taxis must have numbers. But apart from that, we still have got also shuttles that are registered, not necessary to have the identification numbers, but they must be they must have identification. So in order for the vehicle to be determined or to be regarded as a public transport vehicle, must have a transportation permit. That is in terms of the Namibian law. So, which grant permission for that particular individual to charge money from the passengers. Without that, then that particular vehicle or operator is being regarded as illegal.
Well, Kumwe, there you heard it, pretty much emphasizing around the permit and registration issue. What is your response?
Yeah, so this conversation is very important to have because I think the permits and the regulations are there to protect people and protect the Namibian economy and the Namibian population, right? So what we need to understand is Especially in this case, as I said, a lot of the people and the drivers that have access to our platform, they only have access to it through a local Namibian transportation company. A company that's been operating for a very long time, has all the permits necessary, but these companies may contract outside individuals in order to operate in the space. But the conversation that we need to have is, how do we allow the Namibian policymakers to understand what this technology brings so that they can enforce laws around e-hailing. So the problem is the current laws don't exist. There's no policies that are currently in place to regulate that.
Perhaps this could be engaged on a different level, and I want to understand your relationship with NABTA, considering all these concerns. Have you held any discussions with NABTA? Do you have any relationship with NABTA?
Yes, we have. Actually, I've met with the SG. We've had a great discussion, and we've always said from Yango, I mean, our main objective is to grow the industry. We're not competitors at all. What we want to do is help the taxi operators earn a higher income, for example. So what we do is, these taxi operators that have access to Yango, for example, they earn 30% more than they would on the street. And we do this through efficient technology. And that's the type of things we want to bring into the market, right? So we've discussed and we've said, let's work together. Let's see how we can have your core base have access to new technologies, new information, new customers, in order for them to be able to provide for their families, to be able for them to work sustainably and not fight each other for customers on the side of the road.
And how has the response been?
It was fairly...
Because, I mean, the taxis think that you're competing with them, you know.
Yeah, which is surprising for me, because the response was fairly positive, and we were continuing discussions, and then until now we're very open to continue discussions with them, and we've also been speaking to the Ministry of Works and Transport to guide them towards creating a policy and bill that can regulate this industry very well, because currently it's not there. So that's what the challenge is. But it's not a point to stress, because regulations usually follow after innovation, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's shift our focus a little bit straight up to Yango. I want to focus on the safety aspect of customers. Yeah. How do you ensure that? How do you track that?
Safety is a very important thing. And I think in the transportation space, it's something that everyone will be able to tell you is tough, absolutely tough. And I think so we have to look at it how it was before and how we look at it today. So before, we initially thought safety was more about creating barriers to entry and limiting the amount of people that enter the industry and be able to identify them one by one. But that model is flawed for 3 reasons. One reason is trackability, transparency, and accountability. For example, if I asked you, would you let your 16-year-old daughter take a taxi home by herself, like a street taxi, at like 10 o'clock?
You think twice about it.
You would think twice about it, right? Because there's a lack of transparency. Yeah. So we approach it in 3 steps. The transparency comes in when you book a Yango, you know who the driver is, there's a picture of it, and there's a rating to show his previous record, conduct. So you can understand the person that's coming to pick you up. Second, when you're in the ride, you can actually share the ride with a family member, a guardian, so they can track you as you're on your way to your destination. And they also get information on who the driver is, how far you are, and so on and so on. But the last part is the most important part, which is the feedback after the ride, right? Once the ride is done, how do we hold the people accountable for their conduct? And with Yango and this digital platforms, we're able to do that. In the normal taxi industry, you're not. If a driver is rude or has some kind of misconduct with a customer, there's no accountability to them. But with Yango, we're able to do that at a very large scale.
Quite an innovative move, I must say. So what are some of the requirements or criteria needed for me to become a Yango driver or to be part of Yango? Are there also any background checks done?
That's a very good question. So the way we do it is we work only, as I mentioned, with local transportation partners. So we don't manage drivers, we don't onboard drivers, we direct anyone who's interested in becoming a Yango driver to a local partner who's been in the industry for a very long time, that understands the rules of the road and everything that they need to be compliant. What we do is make sure that the information being presented is correct. That the person who's actually transporting the person is the person, the driver's license checks out, and so on and so on. That's how we're able to really help provide a level of transparency to the entire industry.
Absolutely. Also, another issue raised by NAPTA, of course, is the payment of that e-hailing operators are using, which NAPTA is saying, the payment system that is being operated beyond the borders of Namibia, and saying that Namibia is the money is actually not, circulating in the country's economy. But let's just quickly listen to his view before you respond once again.
One of the concern as well when it comes to Yango and InDrive, remember, these are the payment system that now being used by these companies in terms of fee collection, which is now becoming an issue of concern by our members. So because they charge money, and when it comes to, in terms of the law as well, this is now the government that really need to play its part here. When you talk about the system, such as banking system, when you deposit your money in the bank, remember that your system is being operated by someone. These systems are not operated from here. They're being operated from other countries, meaning that it's like they are robbing the country.
Causing a threat actually now to...
Yes, to our financial system. So that is why NAPTA is not just at the level of taxi operation. We are looking at the system, criticality of the system, to say now they are collecting money from Namibia to go to somewhere else. Now instead of strengthening the economy of Namibia, we are now empowering the economy of other countries.
Your response, Dumeni?
Yeah, I think I understand the way he looks at it, but unfortunately that's not the case with Yango. Especially with Yango, 90%, more than 90%, about 98% of the rides are paid by cash to the driver.
Yes.
So the driver receives exactly the same amount of money, or the same conduct of money that he would as he was taking a normal street ride or something. The money circulates in Namibia, and that's why we added another layer of flow of information to work with local partners. It's because the business has to grow with them.
Absolutely.
They're our customers in terms of software. We provide them software in order to grow their businesses. So every cent that is spent really stays in the local economy, and then we charge our partners a fee for having access to our platform. So whenever you say Yango driver, just ask him. He gets the money straight away.
Speaking about fees, why does it keep increasing? One moment it's increasing, one moment it's down, but like just fill us in and make us understand around the fee.
Sure. I think it's the same in any marketplace. It's the